A 24-year-old woman packed her bags for what she thought would be a simple 3-month summer job in rural Wyoming. She had no idea that in just a few weeks, everything about her life, her career, her home, her entire future would be turned upside down. Tonight, we are breaking down exactly what happened, minute by minute, decision by decision, and why people are saying this story reads like something out of a movie script, except it's real. Before we go any further, understand this. What you're about to hear is not fiction. It is not a movie pitch. It is a real chain of events that unfolded over one summer, in a place most people could not even find on a map, and it is currently spreading across small-town social media pages faster than almost anything else this year. People who have never set foot in Wyoming are commenting on this story by the thousands. Why? Because deep down, almost everyone has wondered the same thing at some point in their life. What would happen if I just left everything behind and said yes to the unknown? Emily Harmon actually did it. And tonight, we are giving you the full timeline. Her name, for the purpose of this story, is Emily Harmon. She was a city girl, born and raised in Chicago, working a corporate marketing job that left her exhausted and unfulfilled. Friends describe her as ambitious, guarded, and someone who always had a plan. Nobody who knew her, not her coworkers, not her family, not her closest friends, expected her to end up on a cattle ranch in the middle of Wyoming, and absolutely nobody expected what would happen next. It started with a single social media post. A small ranch outside a town called Sage Creek, Wyoming, population under 1,000, was looking for a summer hand to help manage bookings for their new guest ranch tourism side business. Emily, burned out and desperate for a change, applied on a whim. She told her roommate it would be just a fun little break, 3 months, then back to real life. She had no idea that decision would end her old life completely. Within 72 hours of applying, Emily had the job. Within a week, she had quit her lease. Within 2 weeks, she was driving a moving truck across 4 states, alone, toward a place she had never even seen in person. Family members reportedly begged her to reconsider. One relative told local reporters, quote, "She said she just felt like something was pulling her there, and she couldn't explain it." That single line is now being repeated across the internet, because what happened after she arrived, nobody saw coming. Think about that timeline for a second. 72 hours to accept a job in a state she had never visited. 7 days to end a lease she had signed just 1 year earlier. 14 days to be driving alone across the country toward strangers she had only spoken to through a screen. That is not the behavior of someone simply looking for a summer job. That is the behavior of someone whose life was already quietly falling apart in the background, searching for a reason to hit reset. And whether Emily realized it or not, she was about to get exactly that. Let's take you back to the exact day it all began, because the details here are stunning. Emily arrived at the ranch on a Sunday evening in early June. The owners were away, and the only person there to greet her was a 31-year-old ranch hand named Colt Reynolds. Locals describe Colt as quiet, hard-working, the kind of man who had lived in Sage Creek his entire life and never once talked about leaving. He had no idea a stranger from Chicago was about to walk into his life and change everything he thought he understood about his own future. According to people close to both of them, the first meeting was almost comically awkward. Emily stepped out of her truck in sneakers not made for dirt roads, holding a coffee that had gone cold hours earlier. Colt, covered in dust from a full day of fence repair, reportedly looked at her fancy suitcase, and said, just one sentence, "You're not from around here, are you?" That line has since become something close to local legend in Sage Creek. Nobody at that moment believed anything significant was happening. It looked like nothing more than a new hire meeting a coworker. But within days, something shifted. Emily began waking up before sunrise, not because her job required it, but because she wanted to watch the ranch come alive. She started asking Colt questions about the cattle, about the land, about a way of life she had never once considered as a real option for herself. And Colt, according to multiple sources close to the ranch, started doing something completely out of character. He started talking. A lot. By the 3rd week of her contract, other ranch workers say the two were nearly inseparable during work hours. Nothing romantic yet, at least nothing anyone could prove, but something was clearly building, and the entire small town of Sage Creek was starting to notice. There is one detail that gives real insight into who Colt Reynolds actually was before Emily showed up. Colt had lost his father 5 years earlier in a ranching accident, and according to people who know the family well, he had thrown himself entirely into work ever since, almost as a way of avoiding everything else in life. He hadn't dated seriously in years. He rarely left the property except for supply runs into town. Neighbors disgrapes. Neighbors disgrace. Neighbors Not maybe mine may Within a month, rumors about Emily and Colt had spread through the entire community. Some locals were charmed by the idea of a whirlwind romance blooming right there on the ranch. Others were far less welcoming. Several longtime residents reportedly voiced concerns that Emily was, in their words, just passing through, and that Colt was setting himself up for heartbreak the moment her contract ended in August. One local shop owner who asked not to be named told a regional outlet, quote, "We've seen this before. People come out here for the summer, fall in love with the idea of ranch life, and then they realize how hard winter really is, and they leave." That single quote spread across local social media groups and ignited a genuine debate in the town. Was this a real connection, or just a summer fantasy about to collapse the moment reality set in? To understand why this comment carried so much weight, you have to understand Sage Creek's history. This is not the first time the town has watched an outsider fall for a local and then vanish once the season changed. Longtime residents recall at least 2 similar situations over the past decade, both ending the exact same way, with a heartbroken local left behind once the visitor's contract ended and the harsh Wyoming winter arrived. That painful pattern is exactly why so many people in town were bracing themselves for the same outcome with Emily and Colt. Nobody wanted to watch it happen a third time, especially not to a man the whole community had already worried about for years. The pressure on Emily and Colt intensified. Colt's own family, according to sources close to the situation, were split. Some worried he was falling for someone who would break his heart and disappear back to city life. Others noticed something they hadn't seen in years. Colt was genuinely happy. His mother reportedly told a family friend, quote, "I haven't seen him smile like that since before his father passed." That detail alone changed the tone of the entire town's gossip. This wasn't just a fling anymore. Something deeper was clearly happening. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, Emily's world was falling apart in a completely different way. Her old employer, expecting her to return in September, began pressuring her for a firm answer. Her landlord had already relisted her old apartment. Friends were reportedly stunned by how little she was posting about coming home. One friend put it bluntly in a text message that later got shared publicly. Quote, "She's not the same person who left 3 months ago. Everything was building toward a decision point, And nobody, not even Emily herself, seemed to know which way it would go. There was another complication almost nobody outside of a few close friends knew about at the time. Emily had actually been quietly offered a promotion at her Chicago company just before she left for Wyoming, one that would have come with a significant raise and a corner office she had spent years working toward. She had not yet given her old employer a final answer when she left for the summer, technically keeping the door open in case Wyoming did not work out. That detail matters, because it means Emily was not choosing between a mediocre old life and an exciting new one. She was choosing between the exact career success she had spent her entire 20s chasing and a completely uncertain future with a man she had known for only a few months. That is the real weight behind the decision she was about to make, and it is a detail that has only recently come to light as this story has spread. Adding to the pressure, word of the budding relationship had started spilling outside of Sage Creek entirely. A part-time ranch worker had posted a short, blurry video of Emily and Colt laughing together near the barn, captioned simply, "City Girl and our local cowboy. We'll see how long this lasts." That video, posted almost as a joke, quietly picked up thousands of views on local community pages within days. Comment sections filled with strangers picking sides before anyone involved even knew there were sides to pick. Some viewers called it the most wholesome thing they had seen all year. Others predicted confidently that it would end in heartbreak by September. Neither Emily nor Colt knew at that point that people outside their own town were already watching and guessing at their future. Now here comes the moment that changed everything, the moment people are calling the turning point of the entire story. In late July, disaster nearly struck the ranch. A sudden and violent storm rolled through Sage Creek in the middle of the night, knocking out power across the property and causing a section of fencing to collapse, sending several head of cattle wandering toward a dangerous stretch of open highway. Colt, without hesitation, rushed out into the storm alone to try to stop the herd before a car came through in the dark and caused a catastrophe. Emily, according to witnesses, didn't stay behind. She grabbed a flashlight, ignored every warning shouted at her, and ran out into the storm after him. For nearly 2 hours, in freezing rain and near zero visibility, the two of them worked together to herd panicked cattle away from the road, repair what they could of the broken fence line, and keep each other from getting hurt in the chaos. At one point, sources say, Emily slipped near the edge of a ditch and Colt caught her just in time, pulling her back before she could fall. They finally got the herd secured just before sunrise. Soaked, exhausted, and shaking from the cold, the two of them sat together on the tailgate of a truck as the storm cleared. And that, according to people close to both of them, is the exact moment everything changed. It wasn't a grand romantic gesture. It wasn't a movie moment with music playing. It was two people who had just survived something dangerous together, realizing they didn't want to face anything in life without the other person beside them. Colt reportedly told a close friend the very next day, quote, "I knew right then I wasn't letting her get on that truck back to Chicago." That single sentence is now the most repeated line in the entire story across social media. What makes this moment even more intense is how close it actually came to going wrong. A neighboring ranch, roughly 2 miles down the same highway, reported that a driver had nearly lost control swerving to avoid a stray animal on that same stretch of road just 1 week earlier. Had Colt and Emily not made it out to the herd in time that night, local emergency responders later confirmed there was a very real chance of a serious collision on a dark, rural highway with almost no lighting and minimal cell service. In other words, the storm night wasn't just emotionally significant. It may have genuinely prevented a tragedy. That single fact has added an entirely new layer of intensity to how people in Sage Creek talk about that night today. Word of the storm night spread through Sage Creek almost instantly, and it changed the entire town's perspective. The skeptics who had doubted the relationship suddenly saw something undeniable. A woman who had nearly lost her life in a storm to protect a ranch and a man that 3 months earlier meant nothing to her. The narrative shifted overnight from summer fling to something the whole town started taking seriously. But the real drama was only just beginning. With Emily's contract set to expire in less than 3 weeks, she now faced the single biggest decision of her adult life: return to Chicago to her career, her apartment, her entire established life, or stay in a town of under 1,000 people with a man she had known for less than 4 months and build something completely uncertain from scratch. Friends and family on both sides reportedly weighed in heavily. Some warned her she was making an emotional decision she would regret. Others told her this exact kind of leap was rare, and walking away from it might be the biggest regret of her life. Emily herself, according to someone close to her, said she barely slept for a week straight trying to make the decision. Emily reportedly drove out to a scenic overlook alone one evening during that final stretch, just to think. She sat there for hours, according to someone close to her, staring out at a landscape that could not have looked more different from the Chicago skyline she grew up under. She has since told friends that in that moment she genuinely did not know what she was going to choose, and that scared her more than anything else in her adult life. For someone who friends describe as always having a plan, standing at the edge of a decision with absolutely no plan at all was completely unfamiliar territory. And then, in the middle of that unbearable pressure, Colt made a move nobody expected. This next part of the story is the one that has genuinely stunned people across the internet. Rather than wait for Emily to decide on her own, Colt did something small towns still remember decades later. He didn't propose. He didn't beg her to stay. Instead, he took her to a piece of land on the far edge of the ranch property, a spot with a view of the entire valley, and told her something that reportedly left her speechless. He said he had already spoken to the ranch owners about leasing that exact plot of land, so that if she ever decided this was the life she wanted, there would be a real physical place for her to build it. Not just a promise, but an actual plan already in motion, whether she stayed or not. That gesture, according to people who heard about it directly, changed everything. It wasn't pressure. It wasn't an ultimatum. It was Colt showing Emily, without a single manipulative word, that this life could genuinely belong to her too, if she chose it, and that he was willing to build toward that future either way, with or without a guarantee she'd say yes. Emily reportedly broke down in tears on that hillside. 2 days later, she called her old employer in Chicago and resigned. She called her landlord and told him not to hold the apartment, and she told her family, in a phone call that reportedly lasted over an hour, that she wasn't coming home because she had already found it. The news hit Sage Creek like wildfire. This wasn't just gossip anymore. A woman who had arrived as a total stranger just months earlier was now choosing to permanently uproot her entire life for a future in a town most people outside of Wyoming have never even heard of. Local reaction was understandably split down the middle all over again, but for very different reasons this time. Longtime ranching families reportedly welcomed the news as proof that the traditional Wyoming way of life still had the power to pull people in, even from the busiest, most disconnected corners of modern city living. Several older residents were quoted saying this story reminded them of their own parents and grandparents who built entire lives out of nothing more than hard work and a willingness to take a chance on the land. But there was also real tension bubbling underneath the celebration. Sage Creek, like countless small towns across the American West, has been quietly grappling with a much bigger issue for years: young people leaving rural areas for cities, ranch land being sold off to outside investors, and small agricultural communities slowly shrinking. Emily's decision to move in the opposite direction, from a major city into rural ranch life, struck a nerve locally. Community organizers and even a few local officials have reportedly pointed to her story as an example in ongoing conversations about rural revitalization, tourism-based ranch economies, and how small towns might attract new residents instead of only losing them. One local county commissioner, without naming Emily directly, referenced the story at a recent town meeting, reportedly saying that stories like this prove outside interest in ranch life is real, and that local policy around guest ranching and tourism could be part of keeping small towns like Sage Creek alive for the next generation. That comment alone sparked a wider public debate online about whether small towns should be actively marketing this kind of come work, fall in love, stay forever storyline to attract more young people from cities into rural America. The meeting itself reportedly grew more heated than usual. Several ranchers in attendance pushed back, arguing that the county's real problems, things like affordable housing shortages for agricultural workers, rising land prices driven by out-of-state buyers, and the ongoing struggle to keep young locals from leaving in the first place, would not be solved by a viral love story, no matter how heartwarming it was. Others in the room countered that even one story capable of changing public perception of rural Wyoming was worth taking seriously, especially in a media landscape where small towns are usually only mentioned when something goes wrong. By the end of the meeting, no formal decision had been made, but county officials confirmed the topic would be revisited at a future session, meaning Emily and Colt's summer romance has now unofficially become part of an active local policy conversation. Not everyone agreed. Critics online pushed back hard, arguing that turning a personal love story into a rural economic strategy oversimplifies the very real and serious challenges facing agricultural communities, and that one viral romance doesn't fix decades of population decline, water rights disputes, or the economic pressure facing small independent ranchers. The debate, once confined to a tiny Wyoming town, is now playing out across comment sections and social media pages nationwide. So where does this leave Emily and Colt right now, tonight, as this story continues to spread? According to the most recent information available, Emily has fully relocated to Sage Creek. She has reportedly begun formal plans alongside Colt to build a home on that hillside property he showed her, the same spot where everything changed. She has also reportedly started helping expand the ranch's guest tourism operation into a full seasonal business, using the very marketing skills from her old Chicago career that she once thought she was leaving behind forever. In a strange twist nobody saw coming, the career she walked away from may end up being exactly what helps this small ranch survive and grow for years to come. Colt, according to people close to the couple, has been noticeably transformed as well. Neighbors describe him as more open, more social, more willing to be part of the wider Sage Creek community than he ever was before Emily arrived. Friends say the ranch itself feels different now, more alive, with new visitors coming through regularly, thanks to the tourism push Emily has been leading. There is still no official confirmation of an engagement, though speculation online is intense, with many pointing to recent photos of the couple standing on that same hillside property as a strong hint that something bigger may be coming very soon. Sources close to the family have hinted that an announcement could happen before the end of the year, though nothing has been confirmed. The ripple effects of this story are also reportedly reaching further than anyone expected. Several other guest ranches in neighboring counties have apparently seen a noticeable spike in summer job applications from young people in major cities, many of them directly referencing Emily's story as their inspiration for applying. A regional tourism board is now reportedly exploring whether stories like this one could be used carefully and respectfully to help promote seasonal ranch work as a genuine lifestyle option for a younger generation increasingly burned out on city living. Whether that turns into an actual policy or program remains to be seen, but the conversation itself would not exist without what happened between Emily and Colt this summer. At the same time, some family members back in Chicago are still reportedly struggling to fully accept the decision. One relative, speaking anonymously, said the hardest part wasn't losing Emily to Wyoming. It was realizing how unhappy she must have been in her old life for so long without anyone truly noticing. That comment has stuck with people who have heard this story, because it reframes the entire narrative. This was never really just about a cowboy and a summer job. It was about a young woman quietly drowning in a life that looked perfect on paper, and one unexpected place giving her permission to finally breathe. There is also a quieter, less talked about side of this story that deserves attention. Emily's decision did not just affect her own life. It reportedly gave several other young people in Sage Creek and neighboring towns a new sense of confidence about staying in their own communities instead of moving to bigger cities themselves. A few local teenagers, according to a high school counselor in the area, have openly cited Emily's story in conversations about their own futures, saying that maybe ranch life, or small town life in general, does not have to mean missing out on something bigger. For a region that has spent years watching its younger generation leave for opportunities elsewhere, that shift in perspective, even a small one, carries real weight. It is also worth noting how differently this story could have ended at nearly every turn, if Emily had scrolled past that social media post about the ranch job. If she had hesitated even one extra week before applying, if that storm had rolled through on a night when Colt happened to be away visiting family, as he nearly was that same weekend before a schedule change kept him on the property. Every single one of those small, ordinary decisions lined up in exactly the right way to bring two strangers together and then push them through a moment intense enough to reveal exactly how they felt about each other. People who believe in fate have pointed to this story as proof. People who do not still admit, even they cannot fully explain how perfectly everything happened to line up. What we do know for certain is this. A 24-year-old woman came to Wyoming expecting to stay for one summer. She left behind everything she thought her life was supposed to look like. And in less than 4 months, a quiet cowboy from a town of under 1,000 people changed the entire direction of her future, and in doing so, may have changed the future of that small town too. There is one more piece of this story worth sitting with before we close things out tonight. Emily reportedly still keeps a single framed photo on the wall of her new home, a picture of the Chicago skyline taken from her old apartment window. Friends say she keeps it not out of regret, but as a reminder of exactly how far she has come and how close she once was to never taking the leap at all. It is a small detail, but it captures something much bigger about this entire story. Sometimes the life you are meant to live is not the one you spent years planning for. Sometimes it is waiting in a place you never even considered, introduced by a person you never expected to meet, arriving on a random Sunday evening you almost talked yourself out of. This story is still developing, and there is a real chance more updates could come very soon, especially if that engagement rumor turns out to be true. Local sources say wedding planning conversations may already be underway quietly behind the scenes, though nothing has been confirmed publicly by either Emily or Colt. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on, because the moment we get new confirmed details on Emily, Colt, and what's next for Sage Creek, we will bring it to you first. Stay with us. This is a story you do not want to miss the next chapter of.